Now my pleasure to introduce to you our second of three presenters today. This is a return visit to Rwanda. One time just wasn't enough. Theater major Sam Merriman.
Bravo, everyone. As Drew said, I am Samuel M. Merriman. I am a theater major and philosophy minor. Just before we get into it, I'm just going to give you a little bit about myself. What you're seeing here is actually my hand. We double-checked with my roommates and everything that it was indeed mine. And here you see me holding a hand of a kid. And when I'm in Rwanda, that's all I think about, is whenever I'm walking the streets, you look back and you're like, oh, my hands are gone, because they're engulfed with little hands. As Drew said, I am a repeat traveler to Rwanda. I got to go twice. It was my honor to actually go twice again with Molly, who we actually went our first times together as well. And it was just an honor. And I remember on my first trip, we were at this restaurant called Karibu, which means welcome in Swahili. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, wow, I need to go again. So I told Drew, I'm going again. He said, okay. So I got to go again. And it's such a great honor to be able to go again. So for my theme this time around is Community Unlocks Your Magic. And what this means is what Rwanda is. It's very a community-based country. And everyone knows everyone. You can walk down the streets, and our tour guide, Eric, who we'll learn about more later on, will be smiling, waving to his fans. He's like, oh, I work out with him, and oh, we did this one thing with him before. He knows everyone. And that's something I really got away, because in America, everyone is, walking down, checking their phones, avoiding eye contact. And I want to change that. I want to be able to bring back a little bit of Rwanda. So let's just get a background. Just so everyone knows, Rwanda or Africa is not a country, it is a continent. It has many countries in there. And here is just a little video that will help everything out.
Do you speak African? Well, neither do the 1.1 billion people in Africa.
There's no reason the nation of Africa cannot and should not join the ranks of the world's most prosperous nations.
It's not actually a country. It's a continent of 54 very different nations and more than 2,000 languages. But it's constantly misunderstood or misrepresented. Any mention these days of what was once called the Dark Continent conjures up lazy images of war, famine, corruption, or disease. Who has time to mention the 22 Nobel laureates from 9 different African countries, right? And guess where 4 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are located? Not in Europe, yet they're in Africa, which of course has issues with poverty and inequality. But let's not forget that 1 in 3 Africans is middle class, and the continent is one of the fastest growing markets in the world for mobile phones. And guess which one of these 2 places is in Africa? Wrong. But all this growth comes from foreign aid, right? That's where most of the money comes from, surely. From Western handouts. Nope, not true. In fact, foreign aid represents only 2% of Africa's total GDP. In 2010, Africans living outside of Africa sent more cash back to their families at home than the rest of the entire world provided to the continent in foreign aid. How about the plight of poor African women? Well, the continent has had 7 female presidents. The United States, still waiting, I'm afraid. Meanwhile, Rwanda has the highest proportion of female parliamentarians in the world, 64%. Over in the UK Parliament, it's a record 29%. But you know what? It's important that we focus only on the doom and gloom across the continent, because every 60 seconds in Africa, a minute passes by.
So that was just a little background, as the video pointed out. Rwanda is doing fantastic. It is actually the safest country in Africa right now. And just a little fact about when I first went to Rwanda, I actually didn't even know there was a genocide. And I watched like the videos that Drew would give us to watch, and I was like, how did I not know about this? And I think a lot of times things are overlooked around here. So, Rwanda Part 2. As I got prepared to go my second time, I freaked out a lot more than my first. I was, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to pay my car payment, my rent? Because I missed 3 weeks of pay while going. And I was at the point of a nervous breakdown where I said, all right, who wants to buy my ticket? I want out. And that all changed when we got to the airport, the Toronto airport. Our travels were, we woke up at 6, we got here at the Donald Savage building at 6 a.m., got in a big bus, traveled all the way to Canada, where we went from the Toronto airport to Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, which is the capital, and then from there we took another plane to the capital of Rwanda, Kigali. So it was around 14-hour, it was a day of travel, but 14-hour plane ride there, and then 17 back because of the jet stream. And a little something I messed up on was I got severely dehydrated when we landed in Addis Ababa. My face was yellow, I had a massive headache, didn't go to the bathroom once that whole plane ride. And people were like, Sam, what's up? I'm like, I don't know, I just feel really bad. So there we were at this airport in Addis Ababa, and Eve took me, he's like, all right, we're finding water. And we found some water, and I drank that real quick. So as you can see, this is just one of the many beautiful pictures that the campus photographer Bruce Fox took. We actually call him now Uncle Bruce because he's so part of the family. And this is part of the reason why I wanted to go back. It's called the Land of a Thousand Hills for a reason. There's a lot of them. I also call it the Land of a Thousand Smiles because everyone there is smiling. Happiness is such a big theme in Rwanda, and it's touched me so much because when I'm here, I don't smile nearly as much as I do when I'm in Rwanda. Just another point of this is everyone remembers you. So we stayed at the same hostel as we did last year, the Discover Rwanda Youth Hostel. And there was a guard there named Basil, and when we, like the first or second day we got in there, he said, oh, I remembered you. What's your name again? And I said, Sam. And he introduced himself again to me, and he said, okay, I won't forget. So every time we came back to the hostel and he was on duty, he said, oh, Sam, how was your day today? And I said, great, how was yours? And it was just something that's unique, because here, you don't really, if you stay at a hotel or something, you don't really get to know everyone, and they don't always remember you. They may say hi to you when they walk in out of courtesy, but he took a point to actually remember my name. And it was just very nice. And also, some days they gave us, they would make you omelets for breakfast. And one day I said, no tomatoes in mine. And the chef just remembered that throughout the rest of the trip. So I'd come up and he's like, no tomatoes. And he'd go and just add in extra onions. I didn't always need the extra onions, but it was very nice of him to remember that I don't like tomatoes. And this is another concept I was getting, was how community and how remembering people is magical, and how it makes you feel. So I started asking myself questions. Why can't we do this in America? How are they able to forgive so easily? Because a big key concept in Rwanda is forgiveness. They have TEAJ work camps, which is a French acronym for community service or work, for Rwanda genocide perpetrators to go in and rebuild the country that they destroyed. And the way to do this is you have to first acknowledge that you did, in fact, commit acts of genocide. And then you have to go back to the families and the villages of the people you murdered or hurt and ask for their forgiveness. And they are always forgiven. And what's also kind of cool is that at these camps, you're allowed to go home between 10 and 20 days a year to go funerals, weddings, visit families. And when you think about genocide victims, here we're like they're running away, they're never going to come back. But when we asked, do they come back, they were like, of course they come back. And that's just something we need to change here, is possibly through community, our prison system. So instead of making professional prisoners, we can actually help people get back into the world. Because once they serve their sentence, it's not on their record forever. They're able to go get jobs. They're able to go help their community again, and they want to. So relationships. The first time we went to this, we went to Wellsprings, which is a central point for teacher trainers. We taught the teacher trainers who then go out and teach around 200 teachers drama-based education. And this is the second time we got to go back for a day. And it was really cool because we got to meet old friends and they could go back and tell us stories. We got to play some kind of drama-based education games. And what drama-based education is instead of sitting down, and I'm a big culprit of it, is falling asleep in class. Anyone who's had me in class, you all know I do. What drama-based education is good is it gets you up and out of the seats and on and using your body. And it helps stretch not only your mind, but also your heart. So right here, we have a woman in this lovely pattern, is Beatrice, and she was one of the teacher trainers we taught 2 years ago, and she came back, and she was in my group the first time, as well as the second time, so it was kind of cool that happened. Right here we're talking about, she was asking about, where's the line? So we did an exercise where we were telling a story through abstraction, or being abstract. And one of our tour guides of 2 years ago was Yvonne, and Yvonne was a lion. And he was telling a story by being a lion instead of just saying, I'm a lion. He had this big roar, and she asked where he was. So she was remembering. And that's really cool to be remembered, and by having them remember you, we feel good. And then we have the village. Here we are rehearsing our play. We're getting into our bodies at this point. And what we do is we bring a play called Anne Frank in Rwanda, which is a collection of quotes from the the Diary of Anne Frank. And we present it because in Rwanda there's a lot of dancing or giving a gift. But when you go to a village or to someone's house, they like making you feel welcome. And we were able, and through here, we're practicing what we preach: strong bonds and unity. By getting closer together, we're able to do more, and we're able to create magical moments in our piece. Like this rehearsal led to us creating a Mahoro Dance at the end of our play, which originally was not in there. On the other picture is a group picture after we had dinner with Pastor Sarai, and he worked with Carl Wilkins during the genocide. If those who don't know, Carl Wilkins is a partner of the Anne Frank Project, and was the only American to stay in Rwanda during the genocide. And through this connection, we're able to ask the pastor questions about how he survived and how he's able to cope with and forgive the people that have hurt him and his family. And also his wife, Mama, cooked us an amazing meal of fish, eggplant, which was delicious, rice. Drew always tells us to eat one for nourishment and a second place for thanking her. So you have to eat more so she knows that her meal is good and it's beyond good. So endless friends. Through these, I've actually made great connections with these two men here. Eric is the one giving the peace sign. He was our tour guide, and the next slide we'll learn more about him. He's become a brother to me. We talk every day. He actually just sent me a message saying good luck today on my presentation. And he was our tour guide for part of the first year and all of this past year. And Yvonne was our tour guide all of last year. And he came to us on our last day before he got into the airport, met us for lunch, and even though he had a business meeting right after meeting us, he still had made the time to come see us. And we stayed in contact, and actually his wife is expecting soon, and he told me that if it was a man, he's wants to name the Sam. And I don't know if it's because of me, but it was really cool to hear. He's actually from Burundi, which is going through a lot of turmoil right now, and his family is trying to get into Rwanda, and he's trying to help them get in there. So Eric. Eric loves taking selfies, if you can't tell by this one. We have a great time together. We joke around a lot. We have a lot of inside jokes when we're going around places. When we're together, we're laughing all the time. And it just really makes the experience so much better. And that's part of the magic, is his laugh. Eric was born in Burundi, but his parents and family all come from Rwanda. And when he was 10, he actually went back to Rwanda after the genocide to help identify bodies. And he'd help dig them up. And he'd help tell them, oh, this is this person's cousin, or this might be this person's family member. And he continues to help. He took us around the Teach camp and translated. And at one point, he turned around and told us that he wasn't sure why he was doing this. It was very hard for him to do this because he's talking to Hutu extremists who were people who could have easily killed his family members. But yet, throughout all of it, he did it with a smile, and he did to help us, which was, I think, helping him because he has a family now. Here's some more pictures of what Eric would take. You can see we always like having fun with him. Now comes a word Ubuntu, made popular by Nelson Mandela, who used it when he was leaving his imprisonment in South Africa, which means I am because of you. So instead of being angry at being imprisoned, he said, no, this is part of our culture. We are the way we are because of each other. And then a Wikipedia definition is human kindness. And this is what the village represents and what we want to teach. So in this picture, we are in a Gihembe refugee camp, which is majority for people escaping the Congo. There's also some Burundi population there. And this camp is really cool because the people on the camp are allowed to go into town, they're allowed to buy food, get jobs, and they can move off the refugee camp when they have the means to. But most don't, because what they're doing is they're just waiting to go home. It's just right now unsafe for them to. They have a market, they have a garden with all fresh foods. They are given money to buy their own food instead of just given the food. They have their own choice too. And right now we're about to perform Anne Frank in Rwanda in front of roughly 2,000 refugees. And this is right after a bird was just electrocuted by a telephone wire. We heard a big zap, and then we heard the crash. And all the kids ran over to the bird, and then they realized that the show was about to go on, so they ran back over to watch us. And here is us doing our Mahoro Dance at the end. So what it is we started singing Mahoro, and we started bringing them on stage, and they started dancing with us. And this is where the community really clicked for me, is because you're standing there amongst thousands of refugees, and you know that you've put a smile on their face through just being there and giving them a show that most of them can't understand, but they understand the message, and they'd start singing with us, and they danced with us, and it was just one of those experiences that still sticks in my mind today. Okay. This is at NUMA Art Center. It's an art center that does art. They do dance with kids around the village. Some of them are street kids. And we were being taught to dance here. And it was just another example of how coming together makes work so much easier to do. As you can see, we were being taught how to dance. And the guy in the orange shoes was our dance teacher, and he was very strict. For those who don't know, I have been in 2 musicals at Buff State. My roles in dancing have been very small. This is because, for a certain reason, is that I can't dance. But here I am, I'm trying. There's other people doing a lot better, but it's a lot of fun. Here's another picture of me. Another activity we got to do is we got to paint. and we were told to just think of whatever you want to paint about. It doesn't have to be specific, doesn't have to be anything, and for those, again, who don't know, I love my cat. There's a running joke that I'm a cat daddy, because I only talk about my cat and stuff. So I drew Maggie, very abstract. I had a lot of help from Molly, because she's an artist and I'm not as good. But there that is. And I worked on it with another villager, Lily, who did the other half of the picture, which we called Maggie's Nightmare, because Maggie is a very grumpy cat, and although she likes to cuddle and stuff, she's not the most happy cat. So Lily's part of all the sunshine and lollipop-esque feel was probably the worst nightmare for Maggie. All right. So on this one trip, we got to go.
Yes.
We got to do a day in the life at Azizi, which is a co-op of a group of villagers, and each time you go, you can go to a different person's family or house. And throughout the trip, Tolu and I have been playing pranks on each other, we've been giving each other hard times, and this all came to an end when we were working on the field, and I was digging up some grass and cutting grass for the villagers and working on the field. The head villager, or the head mother, came over to Tolu and they started talking, and all of a sudden I looked over and I saw the head wife, I guess, go like this to Tolu, and then Tolu looked over to me and just. So we were also wearing the same design clothing as well, fabric. And in Rwanda, when husband and wife would wear the same kind of fabric to equal that they're one person. So they started getting all excited and they started chanting and giving us a marriage ceremony type thing. And they were, when we went to go fetch water, we were in the front of the group and they were still singing about celebrating us. So I got tricked by Tricky. But at the end, it was a really cool experience because they could see that we were getting tired because we don't walk 3 miles to get water every day like they do. And so they decided to have a dance-off. And they showed us how to play the game, and then each were already broken up in 2 groups, and group 1 went. And it turns out that I can actually dance, and I won the dance. I was one of the 3 winners of the dance contest. And as you can see, my dance move was the worm. And you can see on Tolu's face and on one of the villagers' faces that they were very surprised that I could do it, let alone was going to do the worm in front of everyone. And then we got to, as John said, Urfundo Village, which was started by Mom Arlene. And she's just an inspiration. She's very much like my grandmother, so every day we'd have breakfast, we'd be with her, and she'd tell me to eat more. But here we are, put on a play, or we put on the nursery rhyme, The Ugly Duckling, for the kids after their devotion. And I was the ugly duckling. I don't know why I was. But, so again, we were coming together as a community, and we put it on, and we had to actually do it twice because the kids liked it so much. And this is my little tour guide. We each got one. I actually luckily I got 2. And Jacob was the kid right here. Loved sitting on my lap. Every morning he'd find me and hold my hand and walk me around. At dinner time one time he had me to try to sit at the little kids table. And I couldn't fit the little kids table, so I had to sit behind him. And he just quickly always checked back at me to make sure I was still there. This is also Rebecca. And she drew me and Molly, and she was great. She was just a character. But I want to now open up to any questions. And I also want to thank my parents for helping me get there. Michelle, who funded me some money. Dr. Page for always writing me great recommendation letters, even when the deadline's the next day. And the AFP project for letting me come not once but twice.